Hello everyone. This talk relates to Code of Criminal Procedure. The Code of Criminal Procedure, commonly called Criminal Procedure Code (CRPC), it is the main legislation on procedure for administration of substantive criminal law in India. It was enacted in 1973 and came into force on 1st April 1974. It provides the machinery for the investigation of crime, apprehension of suspected criminals, collection of evidence, determination of guilt or innocence of the accused person, and the determination of punishment of the guilty. It also deals with the public nuisance, prevention of offences, and maintenance of wife, child, and parents. At present, the Act contains 484 sections, 2 schedules, and 56 forms, and the sections are divided into 37 chapters. And in this slide, we can discuss the history of Criminal Procedure Code. In medieval India, subsequent to the law set by the Muslims, the Mohammedan criminal law came into prevalence. The British rulers passed the Regulating Act of 1773, under which a Supreme Court was established in Calcutta and later on at Madras and in Bombay. The Supreme Court was to apply British procedural law while deciding the cases of the Crown's subjects. After the rebellion of 1857, the Crown took over the administration in India, and the Criminal Procedure Code 1861 was passed by the British Parliament. The Criminal Procedure Code was created for the first time ever in 1882 and then amended in 1898. Then, according to the 41st Law Commission report in 1973. So, in brief, we can say that in colonial society, the British Parliament passed the Criminal Procedure Code 1861, which actively served India during the post-independence era and got amended in 1969. Further got replaced to the Code of Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and came into force on 1st April 1974. Prior to which the setup was criticized for merging the prosecution agency with the police. The prosecution agency did not recognize as a separate identity. Moreover, the police did not have the legal knowledge to conduct a prosecution nor the degree to do it. So, after the commencement of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, the prosecution agency got its recognition. The Act particularly deals with investigation, apprehension, collection of evidence, and determination of guilty. In this, we see some preliminary considerations. First, we see the object of criminal procedure. The law of criminal procedure is intended to provide a mechanism for the enforcement of criminal law. Without proper procedural law, the substantive criminal law, which defines offences and provides punishments for them, would be almost worthless, because in the absence of an enforcement machinery, the threat of punishment held out to the lawbreakers by the substantive criminal law would remain empty in practice. Empty threats do not deter, and without deterrent effect, the law of crimes would have hardly any meaning or justification. If thieves and murderers are not detected, prosecuted, and punished, what is the use of meticulously defining the offences are theft and murder and prescribing deterrent punishments for them? So, the law of criminal procedure is meant to be complementary to criminal law and has been designed to ensure the process of its administration. In view of this object, the law of criminal procedure creates the necessary machinery for the detection of crime, arrest of suspected criminals, collection of evidence, determination of guilt or innocence of the suspected person, and the imposition of proper punishment on the guilty person. So, the law of criminal procedure also aims at providing safeguard against possible harms and violation of human rights of innocent persons in its process of shifting the criminals from non-criminals. So, the Criminal Procedure Code attempts to strike a balance between the need to give discretionary powers to the functionaries under the code to make the investigative and adjudicatory process strong and effective, and the need for controlling the probable misuse or abuse of these powers. In this slide, we can see the importance of criminal procedure. The law of criminal procedure is significantly important for three main reasons. Those are, first one is it is more constantly used and affects a greater number of persons than any other law, and the second one is the nature of its subject matter is such that human values are involved in it to a greater degree than in other laws. And the third one is, as the law of criminal procedure is complementary to the substantive criminal law, its failure would seriously affect the substantive criminal law, which in turn would considerably affect the protection that it gives to society. Therefore, it has been rightly said that too much expense, delay, and uncertainty in applying the law of criminal procedure code would render even the best of penal laws useless and oppressive. In this slide, we can see the salient features of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. We already discussed that the Criminal Procedure Code contains 484 sections and 37 chapters. The Criminal Procedure Code describes that all offences in Indian Penal Code 1860 shall be investigated, inquired into, tried, unless it is otherwise dealt. However, Criminal Procedure Code does not affect any special law or local law or any special jurisdiction or power or procedure provided in any other law. So here we can see the some of the basic features of Criminal Procedure Code. The first one is organization of criminal courts. In this, we can see that the Criminal Procedure Code provides a uniform set of criminal courts throughout the territory of India by conferring jurisdiction, powers, and functions. The Criminal Procedure Code mandates separation of judiciary from the executive, which enables the state to work independently and impartially without interference of any other organs of the state. And the second one is fair trial. Under Criminal Procedure Code, every person is entitled to fair trial and hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal, and the accused is presumed to be innocent until the charges are provided. The accused has right to be represented by his counsel. Further, the accused has a right to cross-examine the witnesses of the opposite party. And the third salient feature is protection of the accused person. This is most important point in Criminal Procedure Code. The special provisions have been made to protect the interest of the accused person. The Supreme Court also gave some important guidelines with respect to the rights of the accused person in D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal. In AR 1997, Supreme Court 610. And coming to the other salient feature, here we can see the special provisions for the protection of the accused person. So here free legal aid provision is made if the accused person is poor and cannot afford the costs of the litigation. In petty cases, the accused can even plead guilty by post and send the amount of fine specified in the summons to the court. Therefore, he need not appear before the court. And the next feature is judicial magistrates are under the control of high courts. Here we can see that all judicial magistrates shall work under the control of high courts of the respective states. The judicial magistrates in metropolitan cities are named as metropolitan magistrates. The Criminal Procedure Code abolished the appointing of honorary magistrates and justice of peace. And coming to the next feature, trial procedure. Trial procedure means it's a procedure for trial of summary cases shall be the same as that for summons cases, except where it is provided otherwise. The Court of Sessions also have been given power to exercise the revisional jurisdiction in addition to the high courts, and an appeal by the state against the order of the acquittal can be filed only after obtaining the leave of the high court. In case of adjournments, costs may be awarded against the party seeking adjournment, including the prosecution. And the final one is duty of the police. If the police officer refuses to record information about commission of the crime, the aggrieved person does have a right to send the information by post to the superintendent of the police. So we already know the object of Criminal Procedure Code is to provide machinery for the punishment of offenders against the substantive criminal law. So all such offences are covered by Criminal Procedure Code, which are mentioned in Indian Penal Code. For example, murder, theft, kidnap, forgery, etc. So according to the Criminal Procedure Code, offences are classified as depending upon the nature and gravity of the offences, if they can be classified under any of the following heads. The first one is bailable and non-bailable offence. So if we see the definition of bailable offence, a bailable offence is one in which bail is a matter of right, and non-bailable offence is one which granting of bail is discretion of the court. But of course, in bailable offence also, it is not a right to get bail. So in brief, we can say that bailable offence means, in case of bailable offence, the grant of bail maybe in bailable offence also, it also depends upon the discretion of the magistrate. It may be either given by a police officer who is having the custody of accused or by the court, or the accused may be released on bail on executing a bond known as bail bond with or without furnishing sureties. The bail bond may contain certain terms and conditions, such as the accused will not leave the territorial jurisdiction of the state without permission of the court or police officer, and the accused shall give his presence before police officer every time he is required to do so, and the accused will not tamper with any evidence whatsoever considered by police in the investigation. And the court is empowered to refuse bail to an accused person if the offence is bailable, where the person granted bail fails to comply with the conditions of the bail bond. And here we can say we can see the examples of the bailable offences. Although even in case of bailable offence, the bail may be refused if credit of the accused is doubtful. However, following are some offences which are classified as bailable offence by the code itself. Here we can see the bailable list of some of the bailable offences. Those are being a member of an unlawful assembly, rating armed with deadly weapon, public servant disobeying a discretion of the law, public servant disobeying a direction of the law with the intent to cause injury to any person, wearing garb or carrying token used by public servant with fraudulent intents, and bribery in relation to elections, false statement in connection with elections, refusing oath when duly required to take oath by a public servant, and obstructing public servant in discharge of his public functions, giving or fabricating false evidence in a judicial proceeding, selling any food or drink as food and drink knowing the same to be noxious, and causing a disturbance to an assembly engaged in a religious worship. So these are the some examples of bailable offences. And coming to non-bailable offence, a non-bailable offence is one in which the grant of bail is not a matter of right, and in other words we can say that an offence which is punishable more than 3 years imprisonment can be termed as non-bailable offence. Here the accused will have to apply to the court, and it will be the discretion of the court to grant bail or not. Again, the court may require the accused to execute a bail bond with some stringent conditions. The court may generally refuse the bail if the bail bond has not been duly executed, or if the offence committed is one which imposes punishment of death or life imprisonment, such as murder, rape, or the accused has attempted to abscond and his credentials are doubtful. The application for bail shall be filed before the magistrate who is conducting the trial, and the application after being filed is usually listened on the next day. On such day, the application will be heard, and the police shall also present the accused in court. The magistrate may pass such orders as he thinks fit. If the bail is granted, the accused will have to execute a bail bond. So, this is the definition of this. These are the examples of bailable and non-bailable offences. And coming to the another category, cognizable offence and non-cognizable offence. Cognizable offences are those where a police officer can arrest without warrant, and such cases, after arrest has been made, the accused will be produced before a magistrate, and he may require the police officer to investigate the matter. And after investigation, if the case is made out, that is, charge sheet filed goes against accused, the magistrate can order for arrest. During the pendency of trial, bail application can be moved before the concerned magistrate, and cognizable offences are both bailable offences and non-bailable offences. And in this slide we can see the examples of cognizable offences. Those are offences of waging or attempting to wage war, or abetting the waging of war against the government of India, wearing the dress or carrying any token used by a soldier, sailor, or airman with intent that it may be believed that he is such a soldier, sailor, or airman, rating armed with a deadly weapon, hiring, engaging, or employing person to take part in an unlawful assembly, or taking part himself. And the next one is being or expecting to be a public servant and taking a gratification other than legal remuneration in respect of an official act. Public servant obtaining any valuable things without consideration from a person concerned in any proceedings or business transacted by such public servant. Counterfeiting or performing any part of the process of counterfeiting Indian coin, and having possession of a counterfeit government stamp, making or selling false weights or measures for fraudulent use, negligently doing any act known to be likely to spread infection of any disease dangerous to life, causing a disturbance to an assembly engaged in religious worships. All these are examples for cognizable offence. And coming to non-cognizable offence, non-cognizable offences are those where a police officer cannot arrest without a warrant. In such offences, for arrest, all the steps have to be followed, like filing a complaint, investigation, charge sheet to be filed in court, trial, final order of arrest if case has been made out. So these are the steps which the police officer has to take in case of non-cognizable offence. In this slide we can see the examples of non-cognizable offences. Those are owner or occupier of land not giving information of rent, etc. Public servant disobeying a direction of the law with intent to cause injury to any person. A public servant unlawfully engaging in trade, bribery during elections, making any false statement in connection with an election, and absconding to avoid service of summons or other proceedings from a public servant, like where summons or notice require attendance in person, etc., in a court of justice. And refusing to take oath when duly required, taking oath by a public servant, obstructing public servant in discharge of his public functions, giving or fabricating false evidence in a judicial proceeding, false claim in a court of justice, fraudulent use of false instrument for weighing, selling of any food or drink as food and drink knowing the same to be noxious, offering for sale or issuing from a dispensary any drug or medical preparation known to have been adulterated, voluntarily causing hurt on grave and sudden provocation, not intending to hurt any other than the person who gave the provocation, and buying or disposing of any person as a slave, dishonest misappropriation of movable property, or converting it to one's own use. So these are the some examples of non-cognizable offenses. The other classification is compoundable offenses and non-compoundable offenses. So criminal offenses can also be classified as compoundable and non-compoundable. Compoundable offenses are those offenses where the complainant, one who has filed the case, that is the victim, enter into a compromise and agrees to have the charges dropped against the accused. However, such a compromise should be a bona fide and not for any consideration to which the complainant is not entitled to. Application for compounding the offence shall be made before the same court before which the trial is proceeding. Once an offence has been compounded, it shall have the same effect as if the accused has been acquitted of the charges. The Code of Criminal Procedure lays down, that is, bifurcated the offences which are compoundable and which are not compoundable. Here we can see the examples of compoundable offences: uttering words etc. with the deliberate intent to wound the religious feelings of any person, causing hurt, criminal or house trespass, criminal breach of contract of service, printing or engraving matters knowing it to be defamatory. And there are some offences which, although are compoundable, but they can be compounded only with the permission of the court, and these offences should be compounded before trial begins. Also, where accused has already been convicted and an appeal is pending, permission of the court is required for compounding of such offences. And the reason for seeking permission of the court is that these offences are grievous in nature and are bad example in society. Here we can say the example of compoundable offences where the permission of court is required: voluntary causing hurt by dangerous weapons or means. So examples of compoundable offences where permission of court is required are voluntarily causing hurt by dangerous weapons or means, causing grievous hurt by doing an act so rashly and negligently as to endanger human life or the personal safety of others, wrongful confining of a person for 3 days or more, and assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty, dishonest misappropriation of property, criminal breach of trust by a person where the value of the property does not exceed 250 rupees, etc. are the examples. And coming to non-compoundable offences, there are some offences which cannot be compounded. They can only be quashed. The reason for this is because the nature of offences is so grave and criminal that the accused cannot be allowed to go scot-free. Here, in these type of cases, generally it is the state, that is the police, who has filed the case, and hence the question of complainant entering into compromise does not arise. So all those offences which are not mentioned in the list under section 320 of Criminal Procedure Code are not compoundable. So this is the classification of offences. So here we can conclude the classification of offences with these categories.